Hello there, BookTube. My name is Nathan, and I am the Rambling Reviewer. Right before making this video, I filmed another video, me reading a bit of haiku poetry out of this collection of haiku poetry called Cherry Blossoms. And I thought I'd also do another reading video. Now, I am not actually sure which, if any of these, I will post on YouTube. I may keep them and then reshoot them later, depending on how my voice sounds. I've noticed that in some of my channels, in some of my videos, my voice is a lot deeper, and then some of my voice is a lot higher. And it's partially dependent on how quick I talk, how guarded I am, I guess. And I don't really like my really high-pitched, slurry voice. So, I might publish this, I might not. But I also thought I would read a Japanese ghost story to you all. I am reading this edition, this collection of Japanese ghost stories, with Sean D. Standfast. And I've been greatly enjoying it. It is a collection of Japanese ghost stories written by Lafacadio Hearn. Lafacadio Hearn was a Greco-Irish writer who was born to a Greek woman and a Irish-British soldier. And he lived for a time in Greece, and then he lived for a time in the US, was a journalist, wrote in Cincinnati about black culture and about crime, also, I believe. And then he lived for a time in the West Indies. He lived for a time in New Orleans, writing all the time, and eventually moved to Japan and became, as some in the Japanophile community call him, the first weeb. Kind of a playfully, I guess, derogatory statement about people who are Japanophiles. Now, he wrote many books that are oftentimes kind of a mixture of folklore and anecdotal story and travelogue. And Penguin, for this volume, took from all manner of writings that he did in Japan to kind of compile a collection of Japanese ghost stories. They're not all ghost stories in the way that we would conceptualize them. Some are closer to folkloric stories. Some have no ghosts, but they have other Japanese entities, minor divinities, monsters, goblins of all kinds, different kami, Buddhas, etc. Or not really Buddhas, but bodhisattvas. And some of the stories are less horrific and more fable-esque. Moral fables, particularly, are common in here. But some of them are indeed quite ghostly. And I figured I would read one to you. One that is quite short. And it's called The Legend of Yurai Dakai. Now Yurai, I may be mispronouncing any of these words, I should note. Spelled Y-U-R-E-I is a term that is essentially like a ghost, but a particular kind of a ghost. It is a ghost that kind of is brought back from the dead due to feelings of hatred or vengeance. The popular culture runs wild with these kinds of ghosts out of Japanese horror cinema, like in Ringu and Ju-on. But just that little bit of context there. So yeah, the legend of Uri Dakai. Near the village of Kurosaka, in the province of Hokai, there is a waterfall called Uri Dakai, or the Cascade of Ghosts. Why it is so called, I do not know. Near the foot of the fall, there is a small Shinto shrine of the god of the locality, whom the people name Taki Daimojin. And in front of the shrine is a little wooden money box, Saisen Bako, to receive the offerings of believers. And there is a story about that money box. One icy winter's evening, 35 years ago, the women and girls employed at a certain asatoriba, or hemp factory, in Kurosaka gathered around the big brazier in the spinning room after their day's work had been done. Then they amused themselves by telling ghost stories. By the time that a dozen stories had been told, most of the gathering felt uncomfortable, and a girl cried out, just to heighten the pleasure of fear, "Only think of going this night all by oneself to the Uri Dakai." The suggestion provoked a general scream, followed by nervous bursts of laughter. "I'll give all the hemp I spun today," mockingly said one of the party, "to the person who goes." "So will I," exclaimed another. "And I," said a third. "All of us," affirmed a fourth. Then from among the spinners stood up one Yasumoto Okatsu, the wife of a carpenter. She had her only son, a boy of 2 years old, snugly wrapped up and asleep upon her back. "Listen," said Okatsu, "if you all will really agree to make over to me all the hemp spun today, I will go to the Uri Dakai." Her proposal was received with cries of astonishment and of defiance. But after having been several times repeated, it was seriously taken. Each of the spinners, in turn, agreed to give up her share of the day's work to Okatsu, providing that Okatsu should go to the Uri Dakai. "But how are we to know if she really goes there?" a sharp voice asked. "Why, let her bring back the money box of the god," answered an old woman, whom the spinners called Oba-san, the grandmother. "That will be proof enough." "I'll bring it," cried Okatsu, and out she darted into the street, with her sleeping boy upon her back. The night was frosty, but clear. Down the empty streets Okatsu hurried, and she saw that all the house fronts were tightly closed because of the piercing cold. Out of the village and along the high road she ran, pitcha, pitcha, with the great silence of frozen rice fields on either side, and only the stars to light her. Half an hour she followed the open road, then she turned down a narrower way, winding under cliffs. Darker and rougher the path became as she proceeded, but she knew it well, and she soon heard the dull roar of the water. A few minutes more and the way widened into a glen, and the dull roar suddenly became a loud clamor, and before her she saw, looming against a mass of blackness, the long glimmering of the fall. Dimly she perceived the shrine, the money box. She rushed forward, put out her hand. "Oi! Okatsu-san!" suddenly called a warning above the crash of the water. Okatsu stood motionless, stupefied by terror. "Oi! Okatsu-san!" again pealed the voice, this time with more of a menace in its tone. But Okatsu was really a bold woman. At once recovering from her stupefaction, She snatched up the money box and ran. She neither heard nor saw anything more to alarm her until she reached the high road, where she stopped a moment to take breath. Then she ran on steadily, pitcha pitcha, till she got to Kurosaka, and thumped at the door of the Satoriba, the hemp factory. How the women and the girls cried out as she entered, panting, with the money box of the god in her hand. Breathlessly, they heard her story. Sympathetically, they screeched when she told them of the voice that had called her name twice out of the haunted water. What a woman! Brave Okatsu! Well had she earned the hemp. But your boy must be cold, cried Obasan, the grandmother. Let us have him here by the fire. He ought to be hungry, exclaimed the mother. I must give him his milk presently. Poor Okatsu, said the Obasan, helping to remove the wraps in which the boy had been carried. Why, you are all wet behind. Then with a husky scream the helper vociferated, Ara! It is blood! And out of the wrappings, unfastened, there fell to the floor a blood-soaked bundle of baby clothes that left exposed 2 very small brown feet and 2 very small brown hands. Nothing more. The baby's head had been torn off. I will leave you lovely folks with that. Have a great Christmas and holiday season.